Okay folks, One Piece. Chapter 1116 is finally out, and we're slowly but surely coming to the climax of Vega Punk's speech. The ancient weapon Uranus is finally confirmed, and the thread of the lost century is coming more and more to the present. Joyboy wanted to leave those ancient weapons to the new generations. It has also been confirmed that this transmission slug is hidden in the ancient robot. We're going into the review now, and if you don't want to miss any new spoilers, etc. for One Piece, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, thumbs up, W correct. Enjoy the video, here we go. Even though this chapter was relatively short compared to the last one, I have to say quite clearly that there was a lot of very heavy and very interesting information distributed in it. The very first big topic is, of course, the ancient weapon Uranus. There were already theories beforehand that the Mother Flame weapon could be this ancient weapon Uranus. Yes, it is, and this has now been confirmed. However, we also have an alternative energy source that was invented by Vega Punk. This parallel that stretches from the One Piece chapter to the real world is super interesting, because Vega Punk basically apologizes for co-inventing something like this and helping to create this energy source that was supposed to be there for all of humanity. It was supposed to help, support, and make many things easier. But it was precisely this energy source that was misappropriated to cause such destruction. I think Vega Punk's apology in this chapter is particularly poignant for readers in Japan, precisely because of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This should be a very interesting homage or parallel to the fact that those who were responsible for the atomic bomb in the Manhattan Project were of course ashamed of it afterwards. That brings us full circle. We have the Manhattan Project, and we have Manhattan in New York, and we have York as the traitor. I don't think you can package it any more obviously than that. It's very interesting how Oda has packaged this. Anyway, Vega Punk talks about Joyboy and of course his intention to leave these ancient weapons to the newer generations. He seems to have partly succeeded, because we have the ancient weapon Poseidon, which can't really be left to the next generation, but which is actually born, namely the fish people princess Shirahoshi. Then we have the ancient weapon Pluton, and here we also have a reaction from Momonosuke, who gets a very interesting insight, namely why Pluton is buried or hidden under Wano Kuni. Vega Punk says it's to give the next generations access to these weapons. I can well imagine that Momonosuke may have learned even more about this, and that Pluton was Joyboy's ship. We know Momonosuke has read Kozuki Oden's logbook, and it says everything, including about the ancient weapons. So I can well imagine that Pluton had a very special connection to Joyboy. One Piece is of course a manga that works a lot with parallels. Ruffy as Joyboy had a lot to do with Momonosuke anyway, and went through a lot with him. That's why there's perhaps an intrinsic connection here that goes back to the lost century. I can't get one particular thing out of my head. On the one hand, we have the ancient weapon Poseidon with Shirahoshi, we have Pluton and the location in Wano Kuni, and we have Uranus. The special thing about Uranus is that it is powered by an external energy source, namely the Mother Flame. Now of course the question is, what was it like back then? Did they also have all these Mother Flames back then? Or how did it work? How was this ancient weapon operated? That's where the Nefeltari family might come into play. The real question is, why is Nefeltari Lily so central to Imu, who has a picture of her hanging in his flower room? Of course, also back then with the letter from Lily, when Cobra had spoken to the Gorosei. Why do they play such an enormous role? There are two possibilities. Either the Nefeltari family was the rightful owner of the ancient weapon Uranus at the time, or the Nefeltari family arranged for the ancient weapons to be distributed, at least for Pluton to come to Wano Kuni. The ancient weapon Poseidon, i.e. Shirahoshi, or the then Fishman princess, was freed, and the ancient weapon Uranus was perhaps supposed to be brought to Alabasta at that time, but the world government did not allow it. The big question to be answered is, what role did the Nefeltari family play with regard to the ancient weapons? Because they have played a central role in the conflict or war that has been going on for 800 years. I hope Vega Punk might even mention that in the next chapters. Now that the Gorosei know the location of the transmission telescrew, I can very well imagine that we can forget about it, because now the Gorosei will only have one focus, namely the ancient robot. This also has advantages for the Straw Hats, because when the Gorosei pounce on this ancient robot, the Straw Hats actually have air and can flee. They'll probably all pounce on the ancient robot and focus it so the whole world doesn't notice. I mean, York told the Gorosei himself that this transmission slug is in there. Now of course the question is whether it's really in there. We first met Vega Punk when he was working on this ancient robot. so it could very well be that this telesnail is there. On the other hand, it could also be a ruse by Vega Punk to distract the Gorosei so that other people on Egghead Island, especially the Straw Hats, can escape. Whether he considered this or not is unlikely because the shot was taken beforehand, but perhaps Vega Punk still has a final finale planned. That remains to be seen. We can't wait to see how badass this ancient robot is. I'm pretty sure the Gorosei are familiar with this ancient robot, as it attacked Mary Joa over 200 years ago. This encounter is going to be very interesting. What I also find super interesting in this chapter, and which is not directly related to the plot of the Lost Century or the ancient weapons, is Stussy. She has an inner conflict as to whether she can call herself human. Her actions, such as freeing Kaku, show humanity. This was portrayed very well in this chapter. Edison, speaking for Vega Punk, gives Stussy hope and reminds her that she is indeed a real person and humanity doesn't depend on where you come from. We also see Imu looking at a picture of Nefeltari Lily a few times in this chapter. I really hope this wasn't a romance or something. Please, nothing cheesy like a Kakashi Obito Rin story. I wouldn't like that because the stakes are much higher on the other side. It's about the end of the whole world. If the core of it is a love story, I wouldn't like that so much. I think Oda will do better. I just wanted to mention it. At the end, Vega Punk blames the Roger Pirates a bit, because they knew everything, or know everything and did nothing. The question is, why didn't they do anything? We already have the answer indirectly. They couldn't change anything because they were too early. The ancient weapons had not yet been born. On the one hand, Poseidon to make Joyboy's promise come true in the future and save the people with Noah's Ark. On the other hand, the story of the ancient weapon Pluton. Central is probably the awakening of the Nika Devil Fruit, Joyboy, Zunisha, and that they all go hand in hand. There are probably many reasons why they couldn't do anything back then. Who would believe pirates when it comes to questioning the whole world government and the whole system? Just like today, they would be labeled as conspiracy theorists and not taken seriously. That's why it's important for everyone to find out the truth for themselves. Raleigh also says something interesting that fits in well with the current times. The younger generation, who are more technologically advanced, are not just being influenced by one source, but are making up their own minds and discovering the secrets of the world for themselves. The story of Joyboy is not yet finished. I think Vega Punk will reveal a lot more, maybe even the name of the ancient kingdom, or the existence of Imu. He has at least mentioned the ancient weapon already, which is a big part. A super interesting chapter. Even if it was short, we have very deep information here that could be discussed for hours. What did you think of the chapter? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. That would be super correct of you. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care. See you next time. Bye.